Good afternoon and welcome to the Oregon Employment Department's media briefing. We are going to give everybody a couple more minutes to join before we get started. Okay, it's time to get started. My name is Rebecca Gibson King. I am the Communications Director for the Oregon Employment Department. Today's speaker is State Employment Economist Gail Krummenauer. And after Gail's remarks, Oregon Employment Department Director David Gerstenfeld, Paid Leave Oregon Director Karen Madden-Homelbaugh, and Unemployment Insurance Director Lindsay Leahy will be able to answer your questions. A couple of quick notes. This call is being recorded and we will post the recording online and send out the link to everyone who RSVP'd after this event. We'll take questions after Gail's remarks, and if you have any technical difficulties or are otherwise unable to get your question answered today, you can always email us at communications@employee.oregon.gov. I will now turn it over to State Employment Economist Gail Krummenauer. Go ahead, Gail.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks everybody for joining us this afternoon. This morning, the Employment Department released the latest jobs numbers and unemployment rate for Oregon in December. Oregon lost 3,700 jobs from non-farm payrolls in December. The unemployment rate was little changed at 4.1%. In December, private healthcare and social assistance had the largest job gain, adding 1,900 jobs over the month. At the same time, leisure and hospitality dropped 1,900 jobs in December. Manufacturing lost 1,800 jobs over the month, and employment fell by 1,000 jobs in financial activities. Between December of 2023 and December of 2024, Oregon employers added 22,000 jobs. That's a growth rate of 1.1%. Now, growth continues to be highly concentrated in private healthcare and social assistance. This one sector alone added about 18,000 jobs over the year. Oregon's unemployment rate was 4.1% in December. That was the same as the US rate. And Oregon's unemployment rate has been pretty stable for over a year now. It's been in this narrow range between 4% and 4.2% for the past 15 months. We're also seeing stability in Oregon's labor force participation. The labor force participation rate is the share of all those ages 16 and older in Oregon who are either working or they're not working, but they're actively seeking a job and available and able to take one. That labor force participation rate for Oregon has been 63% for the past 7 months, and it's the highest rate that we've seen since late in 2012. With that, I'll turn it back over to Rebecca to open up the floor for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. We're now going to open up the lines for questions. If you're joining us by phone, please make sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. As a courtesy, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up question. And if you don't get your question answered today, you can always email us at communications@employee.oregon.gov. And I'm going to see who's got their hands raised. I've got Kyra Buckley with OPB. Please go ahead, Kyra.
Hello. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Gail, I'm going to stick with you and just kind of ask, we've had stability in the labor force, it seems like, with low unemployment rate. I think you and I have talked about how essentially people who want a job right now probably are able to find one. I'm kind of wondering what it would look like, I don't know, say 6 months from now, like what would need to happen for us to grow our workforce?
Thanks for the question, Kyra. We are growing our workforce. So over the past year, Oregon's labor force has grown by roughly 30,000 people. And 2/3 of that gain has actually been growth in people who are employed. So very roughly about 20,000 more folks who are either self-employed, working on a payroll, or working on a farm, or physically residing within Oregon and maybe working remotely for a company that's located physically elsewhere. So 2/3 of the growth that we've seen in the labor force over the past year is employed folks. We have also seen unemployment go up just slightly. So it's up by about 10,000, again, really big round numbers over the past year. And while that was a slight increase, we're still seeing that in a labor force of 2.2 million people roughly, that unemployment has remained relatively low.
Thank you. And when we have a low unemployment rate like that, though, and would it look like if we were to even grow our workforce even more, would it need to come from in migration, or what are maybe some of the things that might lead to more jobs and more people deciding to join the Oregon workforce?
There is opportunity for the labor force to grow even further. The primary way that we've done that over the past 4+ decades has been through net in-migration. That means more people moving to Oregon from other states and other areas than moving out. We have seen that slow and turn negative a couple of years ago for the first time, in 40+ years. We have seen that population growth, which is the primary way that we've grown our labor force, has resumed in the past year. So that is one source of bringing in more workforce. Another opportunity that exists, I mentioned the labor force participation rate. Those rates differ by gender, by age. And so there is some perhaps opportunity to engage more of the population that is currently here into the labor force. And that would be another way that you could grow the workforce within the existing population, even if we're seeing net gains through immigration slow.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you taking my questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Up next is Mike Rogaway with the Oregonian. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi. David, I want to follow up with a question I had for Seth. Earlier in the week, you and I have talked a couple times in the past about the Secretary of State Auditor's recommendation from 2023, I think, about whether to hire an ombudsman for the department. That was the auditor's recommendation. And I know your position was that, that money is better spent, actually having people fielding the claims. I'm curious, I can see that point if we were where we were a year ago, where, the department was scrambling to keep up with a high backlog of claims. It seems like things are a little more in hand now, but I still get calls every week, sometimes several times a week, and I know other reporters do too, and I know legislators do too, from people who say, I just can't figure out the system. And I'm wondering, is that not a job the ombudsman should be doing rather than me and Kyra and Pam Marsh or whomever else is in the legislature?
Sure, that's a great question, Mike. And I will say we have made a lot of progress with the customer service. We're still not where we want to be. So we still know what the biggest factors are. Long term, it would be wonderful to have the capacity to both have the great frontline customer service staff that we need to have, enough of them, and also have the Ombuds office to help find the less common issues that may be causing complications and challenges for people. There's really, I think, two main themes that we're working with. One is that we still know that for some people it's too difficult for them to get through to us, and that they're probably reaching out to you or to others because they're understandably frustrated when they can't get through quickly enough on the phones. And that really is a staffing capacity issue where we still want to be answering those phone calls quicker than we are, even though we're doing much better now than we were in the past. The other thing is we've done a lot with our community engagement and lots of other outreach to where we have more feedback loops, where I think that we're identifying those systemic issues. So maybe there's a question that is causing challenges for people that are in certain circumstances or confusion. We have more feedback loops now than we did before to identify those early and make adjustments. And we're still making a lot of those adjustments in the new system and refining it. So certainly long term, we would love to have it. When we're looking at if we get a finite amount of resources, where can we spend them to help the most people? At this point, it still is more frontline staff to be able to answer those questions, for our experts to walk people through the challenges and help them navigate it. I hope that changes in the future, but for now, I think we're still in a flavor of that situation.
Why not go to the legislature and say, we want our cake and eat it too? Here's one position we'd like to fund in addition to these other ones. This is one the Secretary of State recommended. This is one we think we should have. Why not do that?
Well, our budget presentation to the legislature will be coming up. It's a budget cycle, so we will be talking about what we think we need. It's always a challenge. Frankly, the state legislature is in the position, we're talking primarily here about unemployment insurance, although we have it with our other federal programs too, where Oregon is in the position of having to step in to fill the gap where federal funding isn't enough. We are going to share what we think it will take to provide that really great customer service. The governor's recommended budget has some positions, and we have a policy that includes some policy packages. That does not include the ombuds position, because at this point, we frankly want to see when we get to that better customer service level where we're able to answer the calls quickly, whether that ombuds office is still needed. And I think it would be much less of a need, like I said, if anybody, when they're feeling frustrated or confused, or they don't know how to navigate the system, if they were able to get through on a phone call or an electronic message real quickly, we think that would really be the best way of meeting the need. We have really changed the way that we escalate those more complicated issues where it looks like there might be a more systemic issue.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna give the rest of our folks another beat or two before I wrap things up. All right, not seeing any more hands, I'm gonna bring this media briefing to a close. As a reminder, this call was recorded and we will send out the link to reporters who RSVP'd. We will also post it on the media page at www.oregon.gov/employ under news and agency info. Thank you to everybody who participated today and for your partnership in keeping Oregonians informed. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone, bye.